wrong. This is the whole point of this fiasco, is to try to create a narrative and what he calls correctly a hoax, that he is somehow part of it. It's exactly what they did about Russia, and they're doing it on Epstein.
If he knew that Epstein was preying on underage girls, is that wrongdoing?
I don't know what he knew or not. All I know is they were friends.
He told
and
us
he
that he knew
him.
that Epstein liked women on the younger side, girls on the younger side.
And that comment and what you just said are two different things. So
okay,
if you're alleging criminality, go ahead, say it directly.
No,
say it so we can all hear it.
I am asking you a question that you are pivoting on.
In today's video, Ana Navarro and Abby Phillip absolutely destroy Scott Jennings in a heated debate on Newsnight with Abby Phillip. Scott Jennings does his usual MAGA damage control, but the facts don't lie. Trump and Epstein were publicly close for years. Parties, trips, photos, all of it. And the DOJ itself admitted his name shows up in those files. Now, whether that amounts to criminal liability or not, the bigger issue here is credibility. So let's dive in and watch how Ana Navarro and Abby Phillip shuts down Scott Jennings on Newsnight with Abby Phillip.
He called it boring, a hoax, a witch hunt, a waste of time, created, man-made, and orchestrated by his political opponents, Democrats. He attacked his own base for caring about this. He called them stupid and weak. He said he didn't want their support. And it all seems that that is because he knew something was in there that was incriminating to him. At the end of the day, I mean, if he's in the files, just like a lot of the other people who might be in there because they associated with Epstein at one point, just own up to it. Why doesn't he just do that?
Own up to what? What the Wall Street Journal calls unverified hearsay, which is a redundant term that an editor should strike. Unverified hearsay.
It's actually not redundant.
That is what is hearsay?
Well, hearsay is a legal term.
What is hearsay?
Hearsay is a legal term.
And it's unverified, so use it if you want.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Why should he go out there and have to own up to anything? He's not ever been credibly accused. The Washington Post ran a fact check on this the other day and said, we're confident there's nothing about the president. If there were, we would know about it. Unverified hearsay is what he's dealing with, and you want him to go out and fight this ghost? It's ridiculous.
Well, no, I mean, I think the point is mostly that, obviously, everybody knows that Donald Trump is in some shape or form represented in these documents. His name is, because for so long he was associated with Epstein. So that's actually not a secret. That's not that new.
Of course it's not.
So why
it's
not?
Old news.
Why act as if this is like, you know, something that he has to protect himself against, as if, you know, it's the biggest deal in the world?
I don't understand why people keep using the term that they were associates. They weren't associates. They were friends. They were close friends for 15 years. They partied together. They flew in each other's planes. Epstein was at his wedding, the second one. I mean, they got into a fight. When they got into a fight, it was over a real estate deal in Palm Beach. Donald Trump has told us that he knew Epstein liked girls on the younger side, and I quote. So, yeah, it's old news, but I guess, you know, it's old news, but it's hitting you in the face. The fact that all of these Bible-clutching, cross-wearing Christians, MAGAs, voted for a man who was close friends for over a decade with the worst sexual predator that we have known in recent history in the United States.
He also severed ties, though, after news of the sexual impropriety surfaced. So it wasn't just merely
before, as far as we know.
Well, according to Trump, he said that after news of that became apparent,
according to Trump, and what's true are not necessarily the same thing.
Fair, but
What's wild about Scott Jennings' defense here is that it completely ignores the sheer scale of what we do know. We're not talking about some vague cocktail party encounter. Trump and Epstein were close friends for 15 years. That's documented. They partied together, flew on each other's planes, shared social circles, and Epstein even attended Trump's wedding. This isn't speculation. It's all in flight logs, photographs, and witness statements. And Scott Jennings' line about no credible accusations, that's a dodge. The real issue isn't just about criminal charges, it's about character, judgment, and hypocrisy. Trump himself once admitted Epstein liked girls on the younger side, his words, not anyone else's, and yet kept socializing with him for years. You can't just shrug that off. If any other public figure had that history, MAGA would be baying for blood. And as for the unverified hearsay spin, that's also misleading. The DOJ didn't clear Trump. They dismissed many claims as not credible for legal prosecution, which is a very high bar, not the same thing as exoneration. There are literally hundreds of sealed and redacted documents still under court order, and the Justice Department's own handling of the Epstein case has been criticized for shielding powerful men. This isn't about fighting ghosts, it's about the fact that Trump built his brand on being the anti-elite outsider, yet his closest friends, including one of the worst predators in modern US history, that contradiction is what's eating at people. And frankly, if MAGA supporters had demanded transparency for everyone instead of making excuses the moment Trump's name came up, they might actually have the moral high ground right now.
You know, I think we should honor the fact that there were a number of people who were associates of Epstein, and let's be journalists here. Let's actually look at what's being alleged, which is that he was in the files. In what context, though? We don't know the context in which his name was mentioned. To your point, we already know that he was already on the flight logs. He was already in pictures with Epstein before. This was a long-standing friendship and relationship. So we don't know if there's any criminality here, and to imply that is an egregious.
I don't think anybody's
Nobody's
implying that it's criminal, but the question is why
What's
not?
the criminality?
Democrats are alleging that he is somehow part of Epstein's wrongdoing. It's been happening all day long. This is the whole point of this fiasco, is to try to create a narrative and what he calls correctly a hoax, that he is somehow part of this. It's exactly what they did about Russia, and they're doing it on Epstein.
If he knew that Epstein was preying on underage girls, is that wrongdoing?
I don't know what he knew or not. All I know is they were friends,
He told
and
us
he
that he
disowned
knew
him.
that Epstein liked women on the younger side, girls
and
on
what,
the younger
and
side.
And that comment and what you just said are two different things. So
Okay,
if you're
answering
alleging
my question.
criminality,
If he
go
knew-
ahead. Say it directly.
No,
Say it so we can all hear it.
I am asking you a question that you are pivoting on. The question I am asking you is, if Donald Trump knew that Epstein was having sex and preying on underage girls, is that wrongdoing?
Well, I think if anyone would have known that, but I don't know that he knew that because
I don't know that either.
he disowned it.
Release
But you're raising it. If I knew that
Ambassador.
you ran over someone out on the street, would that be criminal wrongdoing? You're raising it because you don't know if it's true, but you're saying it out loud because you're trying to create. You're
I'm
feeding
saying
the
it out
narrative.
loud because
All
I
right,
think that's what a lot of
Ambassador,
people
go
are
ahead.
wondering, because he does. The
lot of
man
people-
does protest.
This is what we
actually
say
don't
when
think
Anna's
it's
wondering.
a-
A lot
All
of
right,
people.
let me let Ambassador in here.
A lot of people who are MAGA influencers
Anna.
are wondering.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
The fact that there are reports that he's in the files is no surprise at all. I mean, there were associates, friends, whatever you want to call it. Anybody who has had that long of an association is probably going to be named somehow in the files. The problem becomes, as the MAGA base in particular, and many who are now in office, running for office, talked about the Epstein files and who is in it, and they have to be released. Even Elon Musk said a few months ago that Trump is in the Epstein files. And so that kind of, I mean, when you traffic in conspiracy theories, it comes back to bite you.
What Scott Jennings completely skips over here is that this isn't some vague passing acquaintance. Trump and Epstein weren't just associates, they were publicly close for years. There are dozens of photos, flight logs, and even sworn depositions showing their overlap. Epstein was at Trump's Mar-a-Lago parties, and Trump himself admitted in 2002 that Epstein likes girls on the younger side. Those are his words, not anyone else's. That alone raises serious questions about judgment and complicity, even if no criminal charges were filed. And the hoax narrative falls apart under scrutiny too. These aren't just Democratic talking points. Long before any files were released, MAGA influencers themselves were demanding the full Epstein list and speculating about who was on it. Elon Musk even publicly said Trump would be in those files. You can't spend years demanding transparency and then cry witch hunt when your own guy shows up in the documents. There's also a massive double standard here. The MAGA base spent years attacking the Clintons over their ties to Epstein, but when it comes to Trump, suddenly being friends with Epstein for over a decade is meaningless. You can't have it both ways. Even the DOJ's not credible designation doesn't equal exoneration. It simply means the claims don't meet the criminal threshold yet. That's a very very high bar, not a clean bill of health. At the end of the day, no one is saying Trump has been criminally convicted. What's being pointed out correctly is that Trump's behavior around Epstein reveals serious hypocrisy and poor judgment. For a movement that claims to be about draining the swamp, ignoring a years-long friend with one of America's most infamous predators isn't draining anything. It's just looking the other way.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean,
how
biting right
angry.
now.
to your
That's the
point,
problem.
this MAGA influencer, he on February 26th said, the Epstein files come tomorrow. Any living people on that list should immediately be jailed. Now today, he says, being in the Epstein files does not mean you're a pedophile. Epstein was a member of Mar-a-Lago for years until Trump threw him out. Of course there will be incidental mentions of Trump. Give me a break with this non-story. To your exact point, I mean, the flip-flopping, I think, is also very bizarre because it's either you want to know what's in the documents or you don't. There is another argument separate from that, that maybe they shouldn't be released at all, but that's not what these MAGA people were saying just a few months ago.
Yeah, there's a lot of flip-flopping, a lot of hypocrisy, and they say in politics, the scandal is not as bad as the cover-up. And here we have a huge cover-up because, as everybody's admitted, we all knew Donald Trump's name was going to be in the Epstein files anyway. The fact that he's spending so much energy for the past 2 weeks going out of his way not to talk about it, to throw up every distraction imaginable to avoid the issue, is indicative of just how bad this cover-up is. And it's not Democrats who've been pressing this issue, but Republicans and MAGA supporters and Trump supporters who've been pressing this issue in recent weeks. People like Theo Vaughn and podcasters, and people like Tom Massey, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And the idea is that Democrats have been trying to have some sort of accountability in getting people to talk about this issue honestly since Trump claimed that he was...
Yes.
Wait.
Democrats have a long time worried about this.
That's not my point. I just want to say one thing.
I chuckled a little bit, Scott, when you compared this to, you called it the Russia hoax. I'm actually going to play this from The Daily Show's Jordan Klepper, because I think, honestly, he comedically laid this out pretty clearly.
I mean,
this is the worst conspiracy I've ever heard in my life.
That is the most ignorant description I've ever heard.
But how on
It's
earth
an
would
accurate
Democrats have been
description.
trying to take down Trump with documents that they never used to take down Trump?
I'm sorry, they crippled almost his entire first term by convincing one half of the country that Russia stole the 2016 election. And Democrats still have as an
But
argument.
where is the Democrat conspiracy on this issue?
What's wild about this whole exchange is how completely upside down the narrative has become. For years, MAGA influencers, Republican lawmakers, and right-wing podcasters demanded full transparency on the Epstein files. They said over and over, if you're in the files, you should be held accountable immediately. That wasn't a Democratic talking point. That was their demand. But the second those documents start to touch Trump, the entire tone changes overnight. Now it's, well, just because you're in the files doesn't mean anything. The hypocrisy is jaw-dropping. And let's not forget the real context here. Trump didn't just have a passing connection with Epstein. He had a 15-year relationship, inviting him to Mar-a-Lago events, and even bragged in 2002 about Epstein's taste for girls on the younger side. That's on record. Epstein was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago only after a dispute over a property deal, not because Trump suddenly discovered Epstein's crimes. That matters because it shows this wasn't some one-off acquaintance, but a long-standing friendship that only soured over money, not morals. Meanwhile, the MAGA base is trying to spin a story that Democrats somehow fabricated these files but never used them to stop Trump from being elected twice. Think about that for a second. It's absurd on its face. If there really was a Democratic conspiracy, why sit on the supposed smoking gun through 2 election cycles? It makes zero sense. The bottom line is, nobody's saying Trump has been convicted for anything, but if you build your political brand on exposing elites, fighting sex trafficking, and demanding transparency about Epstein, you don't get to flip the script when your guys' names show up. Accountability isn't partisan, and right now, the only people moving the goalposts are the ones who once demanded these documents see the light of day. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.